Okay. Yes, the recording is going. Welcome everybody to the statewide Broadband Ready call. This is for February 9th, 2024. Um, as I mentioned to people in this chat, please put your name and email in there so that if people have questions and they want to talk to someone within their region, they can do so. I also ask my team members through the Illinois Broadband Lab or Illinois Office of Broadband just to monitor the chat and try to answer questions as best as they can ahead of a larger question session that I think we'll have for everybody later down the road. Thank you for spotlighting. I forgot to do that. Appreciate it. Okay, this is the agenda for today. I am going to do a ready brief breakthrough just for 5 minutes because there are some new people on the call, so you can get a sense for what Ready is all about. Then I think we're going to go into kind of what's expected over the next few months from each of you with your team. Talk about the ACP wind down. We've gotten some questions about that. And so we just kind of wanted to give you an update. We have Anita Lee on the call here. She's going to kind of just talk about that a little bit, answer some questions. And then a big chunk of time, I'm hoping to go into the BEAD mapping challenge process. This was the focus on the in-person sessions that we had the last couple of weeks. And the time is of the essence. I think it's the major focus of the Office of Broadband and Illinois Broadband Lab, just because there is such a tight window and a lot of dollars at stake for that process. And we now have some dashboards at the county level that I think will be really, really helpful to everybody that participates in the Ready program, especially anybody that has kind of county responsibility or jurisdiction to kind of use that for kind of future broadband planning and data and also BEAD participation. And then I also want to leave a lot of time at the end for general questions and discussions that people have. I also encourage anybody on my team to just interrupt me if there's kind of an urgent question or something that somebody raises. Otherwise, I think we'll kind of go according to plan and kind of save it to the end. Okay, for people that are new to the Broadband Ready program, this is ultimately kind of year 3, though it has kind of been revamped this last year especially. And it's this idea of how can we use universities as kind of the major hubs within each of these regions to help them fund specific digital equity impact projects and work as collaborators for an entire region with the goal of trying to create a digital inclusion ecosystem through that regional collaboration so that people are sharing ideas, you're using the resources of the university and coordinating yourself kind of with the state to really just make as much progress as we can around the digital divide and kind of this era of infrastructure funding that we are right in the middle of when it comes to both digital equity and broadband infrastructure funds. This is also going to serve, I think, how the lab and the Office of Broadband continue to engage with people across the state is in this regional model. So it's certainly kind of the framework for a lot of that. If you're curious about which region that you belong to, you can see the 10 economic regions divided on the map there to the left. If you know your county, you can kind of look at it either visually or on the right and kind of determine. I also want to say these aren't hard and fast boundaries, especially with our work about collaboration. So depending on your specific interests or what you're working on, it may make sense to kind of get involved more actively with a region that you might not technically be a resident of. But I just want to kind of put it out there to indicate what we're talking about when I say things like the West Central region or the Northwest region, which counties roughly we're looking at with that sort of thing. If you're curious, what's the structure of the program? It more or less is built on kind of these 3 parts. So attendance on meetings, I think, goes along with that regional collaboration of just getting everybody on the same page, sharing updates, getting information, and the like. So that's kind of a big part of the scope of work ultimately. It's just to kind of have that meeting, convening space for your region and for the state to be able to kind of get information out. So it takes the form of 2 main meetings, one being a regional meeting, which I'll get into in the next slide of once a month each region basically has a meeting. And then these statewide calls that also happen once a month, typically on the third Friday. But this one was moved up because of travel and the Net Inclusion Conference happening next week. The second big piece is the Digital Equity Impact Project, which is a little bit loose, and I'll go into in a little bit more. But this was the original source of the READY program. Was let's kind of get some funding out to universities to do digital equity work, within their communities, but also kind of outside their campuses, in a variety of different forms and whatever it might kind of be most successful given the unique characteristics of those regions. Many of you are all the way, underway on these various projects. They take different flavors, and reporting on that sort of thing is what's kind of ahead for us this spring. And then lastly, that Regional Digital Equity Coalition building is kind of how all of this fits together, which is this idea of what are the digital equity challenges in our particular region, and how can we kind of work with people and key stakeholders in our region to really make progress on a variety of different initiatives that are happening. How do we stay in contact with the state and report back? And so that's long-term kind of ongoing work. But I'm really excited at the developments that have happened in just the past few months with a lot of different teams on the different connections that they're making, as well as when this program initially kind of got revamped over the summer. This was before we had some community engagement managers with the Office of Broadband doing really, really fantastic work, as well as a lot of our fellows, Illini Science Policy Fellows. So I'm really pleased that all their work is kind of coming together to help with that piece as well. And I will say, for anybody that's curious about kind of what comes next for READY this summer when it kind of renews, we probably are going to reorganize that in a more helpful way for you all, so that as people within your universities, you're not sort of like trying to manage all of this, which is a very ambitious, admittedly, project, but I think that was kind of what we had to do at the time. But rather that you'll kind of be assisted and can kind of focus on these areas that fits best with your schedule. All to say, will help with the regional collaboration piece a little bit more, I think, and kind of build off of the momentum that we're building this time around. So the meetings calendar, as I mentioned, each team has their own kind of slot, which I'll get to in the next slide, and then these monthly meetings. The next one is the 15th of March, and the next one is the 19th. So if you want to multitask and make sure that those are on your calendar, that's all fine by me with everybody here. For any of the team leads that are on today's call, I would love it if you would just kind of confirm. It can be in the chat, but I think the preference would be to maybe email me either during or after this call to say whether or not you might have a conflict with these scheduled calls. So yeah, March 6th for Central, March 7th for East Central. North Central will have to be in touch as the 16th isn't going to work. We'll do a follow-up, but yeah, we'll get to you all too, because I think there's great stuff going on in McLean County. So I'm not necessarily worried, but I do think we need to do a check-in. And then I've been back and forth with some of the other groups with Southwest and Southeast about some of those scheduling things. So, and West Central. So just kind of confirm those things, and we'll follow up for anybody that sees anything that doesn't make sense. Really quickly, I just want to note, we are in the process, I think, of kind of figuring out how the state wants to approach the various kind of statewide meetings that have been going on, some that got started in the height of the coronavirus pandemic, reformatting kind of what we're expecting out of those. But for now, this is sort of the general calendar that exists if you want to get involved more specifically in some of these aspects of digital equity. So there's an ACP outreach call, and then there's an Illinois monthly digital equity updates, which is mostly geared at helping practitioners in that space kind of share knowledge and different things that are going on more specifically in kind of like that digital equity space. So it's absolutely a good one to be plugged into if you're curious about kind of, projects going on across the state. Additionally, Chicago has its own digital equity coalition that meets, and then there's the Illinois Broadband Advisory Council that just had its meeting Wednesday, but those are generally quarterly and provide a rough kind of more at the same time high up, but also very in the weeds kind of overview of just where Illinois is heading on a variety of things. But you'll stay up to date with these sorts of calls. Okay, where we stand with Ready right now. These slides generally haven't changed much, but minus kind of the color and the progression. So if people are curious of like, are we falling behind? Where should we be? That's what this slide is about. In general, we've gotten everything in the short term except for a couple different regions that we're looking at in the northern state line and northwest to potentially incorporate or do a pilot type program before the turnaround. So those will all kind of be settled, I think, in the next month. But most importantly, I think looking at that yellow of kind of where everybody should be focused right now, given the digital equity impact project that was outlined in your scope of work or your ambitions, that should kind of be underway in some regards if it hasn't already started. I've gotten a lot of good feedback doing my regional check-ins of where people are with their various things. Obviously, I think the ACP component was a big part of a lot of people's digital equity projects. So we're going to be talking about the ACP wind down in just a little bit as to where we kind of stand with that and how Ready might ultimately play a key role in helping some of that transition for what the state and others are trying to do. Further, kind of continuing to grow your team and get key stakeholders involved, I think is happening in every county, but particularly the ones that we visited with the last week's tour in the Southeast and the Southern and East Central. There are a lot of really great people, I think, that showed up to those in-person events that would make great team members that might have a particular expertise or a connection to a county to either grow a digital equity program that might be happening or assist with any sort of infrastructure build out. And then the last piece we'll get to a little bit in today's presentation, which is just some of the data and dashboard work that has been happening internally with the Illinois Broadband Lab, how that will affect and help with the BEAD program, and also kind of ongoing work with you all. Okay, I want to focus just a little bit on this slide and just make sure that it gets received well and comprehended by all the team leads on this call of just sort of like, what do we expect basically from now until the end of the fiscal year and the end of this program? So I'm going to start with the kind of left column and then go to the right column. Those are, as of right now, sort of the key dates that you will want to make sure are kind of ready and on your calendar for this program. So the next statewide ready call will be March 15th. The idea is hopefully people's teams will be a little bit more kind of grown and bringing more people into the fold. And so it's a way to share on the progress of different projects that you might be working on with your Ready team. Similarly, if you're having any challenges and are looking for help to move your project along, or helpful resources or to learn from others, it's going to be kind of a more collaborative session, not so much of a information dump like I'm doing on this one and have been doing on the previous presentations. It's going to be a little bit more getting into the weeds of what people are doing as far as their digital equity projects. So it'd be really great if we had good participation on there, especially I think if you're struggling about getting your digital equity project across the finish line or having kind of stumbling blocks to trying to figure out what you're trying to do. That's kind of the call to do that. And so as a result, looking at the right-hand column, that's going to be a sort of, you can think of these regional meetings that I was talking about as kind of prep for those calls. So I would love in March, when we have our next calls with each regional team to kind of get a good update as to where things stand, maybe even some initial looks at how you're envisioning presenting some of this information and sort of telling the story of the Ready Grant program that you received, or the Ready Grant that you received, and the kind of impact or effect of your work. And it can still be a story that's incomplete, but just kind of getting that initial stuff in place. April 19th is when we're looking to do the final presentations at the end of the day of a lot of the work that you all have been doing. This is a key date, and I'm going to go in the next slide a little bit more what we mean by those final presentations. But for now, just realize if there is an important date to be on attendance for, it would be April 19th. This doesn't mean I can't be flexible and figure out a better time for the statewide presentations of these ready projects. But that's the scheduled statewide meeting. It should be after any sort of spring break disruptions and before any kind of commencement or academic things. So I'm hoping that that works well, but I want to put it out there already now in case anybody knows, right off the bat that they would not be able to present from their region on that call. I would just kind of want to know that ahead of time, and we can kind of work out an alternative. As such, the April check-in meetings will really kind of just be talking about how you're going to tell your story or make your presentation. The reason why we're doing those final presentations in April is because the Illinois Office of Broadband is trying to organize a statewide broadband summit in Chicago. It's actually going to be more of a regional summit to kind of take advantage of the momentum of the DNC and just kind of the energy I think that's going to be there, and to kind of showcase what Illinois has been doing and what other states in the Midwest have been doing. So as a result, there's plans to ultimately do a ready panel or some sort of workshop featuring some of the work of ready. So having those presentations and those things done by April would help with that. And if your participation would be extremely welcomed, though I do know that most likely if it is in the first or second week of May, that is going to run into commencement time conflicts. As soon as we know a date, again, this is probably a 2-day summit. As soon as we know a date, we're going to be talking about it and publicizing it. So you will know, pretty much as soon as we know. And so you can kind of confirm whether or not you can be there, but I just wanted to at least put it on the calendar so that you're aware that that's happening in Chicago in May. And then that kind of brings us quickly to the end of the program. And I think that last portion in June will really be kind of a self-evaluation with this program of like what's working, what's not working for you all, so that we can kind of really get it set and design it well for the kickoff of kind of the next round of ready beginning in July. So June is going to be a little bit more of like a reflection period, figuring out how we want to restructure things to be as successful as we can be collectively for that next round, which I'm also really looking forward to hearing some of that feedback and how things can kind of be improved for you all. Okay, that brings me to this fun little slide on the final presentations. So I put kind of goals and aspirations. The immediate goal is to just basically showcase your ready team and your ready work. This is a grant program. It's designed to sort of have an impact in digital equity, or at least kind of, start the kind of laying the seeds for digital equity ecosystem and best practices and learning from one another. So that is at the core, I think, of what these final presentations are about. In additionally, just kind of, organizing things to showcase that in such a way, that people can kind of easily see like, okay, this is kind of what's the digital equity snapshot of our region. This is what the university has been working on with this program. Do I want to kind of help with that? Aspirationally, thinking a little bit long-term about what digital equity means and regional collaboration. I say this a lot at different presentations. The work of digital equity is not easy, and it's not going to be going away anytime soon. Frequently, things like digital literacy and digital inclusion, skills-based kind of literacy, using a computer, getting technology into people's hands, is often kind of where it's framed at the start of digital equity. But I think myself and my colleagues also understand that it is a really large kind of social problem to be thinking about that involves infrastructure and everything else, but it also involves economic development, the future of research, the future of work. I think everybody here understands the role that digital equity plays in education. So I think thinking a little bit bigger picture about the role that digital equity plays into those things and how those would contribute to a sustainable digital equity ecosystem is a big part of the future of READY and the future of regional collaboration in Illinois. So I just wanted to note that as you're thinking about your final presentations and thinking about, a little bit more into the future, what is it that you feel is within your capacity, given your stance either at a university or at an organization in a region, and maybe trying to kind of fit that in to your respective region. So I want to kind of offer guidance, but at the same time, keep it open for what we're looking for. Ideally, somehow telling the story of your region or smaller community and some of the unique challenges to digital equity, I think is going to go a long way. And I think data can be a helpful part of that. So using the tools that kind of we'll be talking about today and others to just talk about, what kind of goes on in your region, what your university, structure ultimately is kind of like, and how it fits in with the larger region. If you are hosting a digital navigator or you have an LFA fellow, the different successes that they've been going through, or curriculum that's been developed. And then I think everybody likes a good story, including, ones that unexpected challenges or unexpected fortuitous events that happen. I think those all really just kind of add to what we're looking for. There may be higher clarification and specifics that we want included with this READY final presentation, but for now, that's just kind of the broad overview. But I also just wanted to say the opportunity for creativity is there. You can use this opportunity to, if you're looking to seek other types of funding, either through your university or to explain digital equity. Many of you I know work on a lot of different initiatives outside of the READY program. So thinking about audiences like that you could loop in. And then finally, to just, think about experimenting either in different forms that you want to make this presentation in, or experiment even narratively with ways that you wouldn't normally think about presenting that information. All is welcome. There's kind of, it's far out sort of into the future, April 19th. But it'd be really, really great to kind of just like see, I think, some of these stories about digital equity, incorporating data, what's happening, what challenges exist, because I think all of that's going to help other READY teams and the state at large just get a better felt sense of what's happening and where resources can kind of be directed. Any questions before I move on from that? Okay, you can take it to the chat. I'm going to keep going just because there's still so much that we want to cover. Last time we spoke, we did a pretty deep dive into the digital equity plan. The weather did not cooperate with the regional tour. I had to make some tough calls that I think I ultimately made the right ones to ultimately, cancel or postpone some of those tours because of icy roads and other conditions. We were still able to go to four different ones. Northern State Line, East Central, Southeast, and Southern. I was really happy with the turnout. I want to give a thank you to all of the people that helped in those respective spots with that organizing. I think even though it was a short turnaround and a postponement, I think we did a great job getting the word out, at least to people that would benefit from being there. And for those that had their things canceled, we'll be in discussion during your kind of regional calls about events that might be happening to kind of meet and convene, or be good convening places, or potentially even just doing your READY meeting in person in March, again, kind of weather depending on some of these things. So to be determined on kind of that future engagement, but there's going to be a lot more in the springtime as well. So just to reiterate, the public comment period is closed for the draft state digital equity plan. If you have final things that you want to say about it, good or bad, you can email broadband@illinois.gov. People are working on basically getting the comments into the plan because it's going to be submitted next week to NTIA to hopefully get funded. You should have seen this slide before, but it's kind of a summary of the implementation of the digital equity plan. And from my standpoint, this kind of like has the READY program all over it. So I certainly think READY will be a huge part of the implementation of the state's digital equity plan. Specifically, you can see the state and university partnerships. That's what we have going on right now. Stakeholder and great engagement, helping with digital equity grant programs. That came up in some of the listening tours of just, I think there are, areas such as the Northeast that applying for grants is just kind of common and very active with so many different organizations that have that kind of funding model. But when you go towards the Southeast or southern part of the state, there just really aren't enough hands or people down there to even kind of know about or fill out digital equity grants. So I think just that kind of process on multiple sides of it will certainly play a big part for the state's efforts coming up with state digital equity work. Just a reminder, it's assuming everything gets approved and the timelines work, Illinois should be distributing digital equity grants themselves, the state, I should say, that first one, in mid-2024 is when the request goes in. And then again, depending on turnaround, still this year, we could see those dollars ultimately going out. And as I mentioned, it's going to be similar to the Digital Equity Capacity Kickstarter program, the DEC program. So hopefully this also kind of creates an atmosphere across the state of people are kind of familiar how to apply for digital equity dollars, how to submit, for those sorts of things, how to organize projects, where to go to data, that sort of thing. If you're concerned about the national digital equity competitive grant program, I would say those dollars probably are not going to be happening until 2025, but we will obviously keep everybody up to date and current with all of that. Okay, for 10 minutes, Anita, I'm going to toss it over to you if you're ready, just to talk a little bit about the ACP wind down, what it might mean for the fellows, what Illinois is kind of doing, and anything that might be relevant for the READY team.
Awesome sauce. Thanks, Robbie. Let me get on line here.
Awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce. Ever since I heard that commercial, I've adopted it. It is part of my lexicon. So there you go. And I use lexicon. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for Robbie for having me. I will just, like I said, take my 10 minutes and see what I can do. We got damage I can do. As you all know, part of the $65 billion infrastructure bill that was dedicated to broadband infrastructure and digital equity, 14 billion of that was for the Affordable Connectivity Program, which was an evolution of the emergency broadband benefit that began in 2020 during the beginning of the pandemic. That money always was finite, and despite many efforts, it was a blessing and a curse. A blessing and a curse for this great project. The curse being, I always like to talk about the bad news first. The curse being that because of the success of it, the funding ran out much quicker than I think a lot of folks anticipated. There are approximately 23 million households throughout our great country that took a hold of this benefit and is currently using it. The benefit, the $30 subsidy towards their internet service. That because of that is running out of funds. The great news, obviously, is that it was successful. In the sphere, it is an unprecedented type of deal that we had that many households to hop onto a federal subsidy so quickly. But once again, unfortunately, it is finite and it is running out of funds. It is predicted to run completely out of funds by the end of April. And while many of us in the community started the new year thinking, okay, we had until April to try to either get it refunded or make the case, the FCC actually put out some rules, wind down rules, that basically said, no, you don't have until April to make the case. You have until February 7th to get new subscribers. And so since the funding, so right after that announcement, there was a bill that went out. It was bipartisan, bicameral, a $7 billion refund or funding more, that would have taken the ACP program to at least the end of 2024. That bill is still kind of languishing. And because of that, the FCC basically said, we need to freeze all new applications by the end of February the 7th. And so that has come and gone. And so at this point, we are no longer able to enroll any new people into the ACP program. And so this gives the FCC an opportunity to make their final calculations as to how much is going to be left. And once again, the prediction is that it will be April, the end of April would be the end of the funding, but it's possible that there can be a partial payment in May. And so that is the timeline that we are working with. Additional information as you all do different things in the community, as well as our digital navigators doing things in the community, is that current subscribers, current ACP recipients should have already received the first of 3 recommended announcements from their carrier or their provider that ACP is winding down. This is what the FCC has asked the ISPs to do. If you are a member of NDIA and are part of the listserv, you will find quite a few people in the community kind of showcasing some of the good and the bad and the ugly of those first announcements from ISPs. We've got folks saying there's nothing else you need to do. There are folks some ISPs, including one in Southeast. Thank you, Terry Sullivan, for actually sending over a letter from one of the ISPs that was very transparent and honest about what's going to be happening should it not get refunded. And so that's where we are. And the other 2 notices should be coming between now and before the end of the end. Because then once we figure out how much money is left, the FCC can let the ISPs know, and the ISPs can let their families know, or their subscribers know, how much longer they will be receiving the subsidy. And so also the ISPs are encouraged to make sure that they have options for these families to hop on. And if they do not, or not plan to have any options, then to give them an opt-out scenario where they will not be shocked by an upcoming bill. One thing that is a bit of a nuance is some folks who already had internet service in their bundle, in those cable bundles, where it's cable, internet, and phone. There is a particular type of nuance or particular type of message that they need to let those subscribers know as to whether or not they can opt out of the internet portion of their bundle, or are they wanting to continue on and getting the higher bill. And so it's still going to be very, very important that we have the uses of trusted community members like digital navigators, like community service organizations that will continue to educate our families in this effort, in this understanding. There is still hope. The bill is still out there and available. It's possible that Congress will pass something and that there won't be a quote unquote shutdown for the families that are on, but an opportunity to reopen and have new subscribers. But, we have a wackadoodle Congress, and I did say that out loud. And so there's hope, but there has to be reality as well. Robbie, do you mind if I can share my screen just quickly?
Sure.
I don't know how much time I have left.
Uh,
You know,
just a little bit, if I'm being
okay,
honest. I love hearing about this. I think it's important, so I don't want to give the impression
absolutely,
that it's not.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I,
This is what I wanted to do. Let's see, waiting, 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 waiting. Do y'all see my screen? Okay, there we go. Just wanted to let you all know that if you are not aware, you have digital navigators that are available to come and do a talk, table at an organization. Um, and I wanted to show you the navigators. This picture actually is from our MLK Day of Service event that we did at PCs for People. We were able to do some refurbishing at the Chicago office. Everyone had a wonderful time. But on the right there is your digital navigator for your particular region. And so that person is available to come and, like I said before, either maybe do a talk, maybe table at a community space, or or a community event. And the Office of Broadband has also created some one-pagers and a bifold that I'm going to assume Robbie is going to distribute to everyone. So
yes,
we can actually be able to print those out and have them in places and spaces and to give out to community members. So I'm gonna leave it there, Robbie. Thank you so much. I'm open for any other questions. And of course, your question is going to be, well, how do I reach my navigator? So I'm going to say, reach out to me and I will make sure you will get access to your navigator. And of course, several of you are the site host supervisors for those navigators. And so once again, thank you for your support and your service with providing this resource to the community. And so with that, I will stop talking.
thank you. Great job. That's very clear, Anita. And as you can see, there's just a lot of news and a lot of what we don't know out there. So you'll definitely be hearing from Anita more in the weeks ahead, I think, with this. And I just want to add, oh, sorry, let me start sharing or resharing. Okay, can people see the NDIA thing? I sorry, let me also just figure out how do I, here we go, spotlight. I'm learning, still always learning. Okay, the thing that I wanted to just add on to what Anita had to say is just this is a really unfortunate circumstance, a wildly successful program in the sense of signing people up. But if people on here don't know, I say it every chance that I get, affordability is the biggest barrier when we're talking about people adopting internet at home. So to have this program go away, I mean, it is literally going to be millions of people that now either really have to make that choice, about food bills or internet bills, or simply try to live without the internet service that they were able to have. It also kind of shows the complication of all this. And so to emphasize anything, I think it's just ways to figure out that affordability piece, either resources that are available, getting the word out, kind of after the ACP program is certainly going to be on the minds and work of the Broadband Lab and Illinois Office of Broadband, and will play a central role, I think, in the Broadband Ready program. So yeah, I just think it's a tough time for that. There's weird stuff around what we can say you should or shouldn't do around lobbying. So what I'm not saying is to contact your representatives about the ACP program, but what I will say is that NDIA has a lot of materials around bills that are available, and ways to kind of contact them. And I think it's an issue to bring up and advocate for if you want to, in your own space, not a lobbying sense that I'm saying. It's really important, and we'll kind of continue to help that along the way. I think Hillary too might be putting PDFs in there of the one pagers, but that will also be going out in the follow-up of what we're trying to do. Okay, we're gonna switch gears here. This is going to be condensed. I still do want to leave a good 5 to 10 minutes, if possible, for questions around what we have talked about or what we will talk about. But I wanted to really talk about this because there's a short time frame and there's opportunities for ready participants in particular to play a really helpful role in what the office is trying to do with the BEAD program. For anybody that hasn't seen this slide, as part of both the Digital Equity Act kind of efforts of larger congressional action, they also gave a lot of money, over $60 billion, for this BEAD program, of which Illinois was awarded over $1 billion. And really, at the bottom line, it's just how do we get everybody to have broadband? Not affordable, and I mean, it'll go a long way to affordability, but this is a program aimed at how do we get broadband to every home in the state and across the country. That's a very complicated question, and it's been multi-years in the making, but we are now at a very kind of important time with that program, which is the finalizing of the map that'll be used to disperse that billion dollars, billion point or $1.04 billion. There's ultimately kind of a year process of that kind of like bidding and you know that sort of thing, and then 4 years to kind of implement these projects. So this is kind of the main thing, like I said, just in terms of dollar amount and sort of where we're at in this phase around infrastructure. You should have already seen these things before if you're familiar with this BEAD program, but when it comes to actually challenging that final map, it's just to get it as accurate as possible so that the money goes, you know, where there is true unserved and underserved, sorry, locations across the state. So to keep things short and simple, this is the main website that has everything. There's a star by it. You can say bookmark it. Staff, if you want to put it in the chat, that will have everything. It's updated. So if you have questions, if you want one-pagers, if you want flyers to basically help people in your counties or in your areas take speed tests to make sure that their location is accurate on the map, all of that material is there. And same with everything I'm about to say. So the biggest thing is basically in this chart. I'm not going to get to everything, so I will be following up with these slides. But if you are a representative of a county or a nonprofit organization, we recommend that you pre-register. This helps, even if you're an individual as well. This helps basically do part of the verification process and keeps you up to date, because there's really only going to be, I think, 21 days of actual initial challenge to the map. The map is live. You can kind of go view it. You can put in your address or areas maybe that you work with that you know suffer from disconnectivity or being unserved or underserved, and then ultimately submit a challenge. If you have access to the FCC Fabric data, you'll kind of do things differently. And if that's the case, you'll go through it kind of in this different way. One thing that could be really helpful for ready teams to know about the BEAD program is that something that can be challenged on the BEAD map is the availability of broadband speed to community anchor institutions and whether or not certain locations are community anchor institutions. Illinois takes a relatively expansive definition, particularly on that number 7, community support organization, that facilitates greater use of broadband service by vulnerable populations. So in other words, you want to make sure as a county administrator or someone involved in kind of your region's broadband scene, you want to make sure that certain locations are identified as community support, or sorry, if they are community support organizations, are identified as community anchor institutions so that they're on this kind of final BEAD map, so that they are part of the something kind of guaranteed to have kind of gigabit upload and download speed connectivity. There'll obviously be a lot more information. I just kind of wanted to get that out there. There's flyers and things. Okay, though we're short on time, I also wanted to say on that BEAD DCO website, there's a specific flyer for local governments and nonprofits. So if you're a Ready team member and you know that I'm in touch with these county officials, either through Broadband Breakthrough or they're on my Ready team, or I have a relationship with them, and they are asking, you know, how do we sort of do our part to make this map as accurate as possible, sending them this one pager can go a long way, as well as this one about BEAD, all of which are located on that BEAD challenge website. I'm not going to go super into depth on the actual speed test because we've done that before. But I just kind of want to quickly show that there have been some local county governments that have really taken this ball and run with it in terms of getting the word out and helping people with this challenge process. So Lake County actually kind of has their own little portal that they're using that people can go to the Lake County website and it can help them make a submission. So if you are a county member that wants to implement this sorts of thing, we can kind of get you in touch with them and make that a reality. And I also want to do a big shout out to the McLean County team and their digital navigator and other folks that working in that space. They, on their county website, have a Hey McLean County, how fast is your internet? Click here to find out. They did a press event with a video, a how-to thing. So I encourage people to go and check that out. Again, if you're a ready team and you're working through a university setting, it doesn't necessarily apply, but many of you are kind of focusing your ready efforts on county engagement, particularly kind of southern and southeast. So I wanted to kind of just, let you know what counties are up to. Okay, with that, I'm going to toss it over to Shubika, if she's on the call here, to talk about these new dashboards that are live that can help you kind of look at some of these things and get a good snapshot, an interactive snapshot of your situation. So go for it, Shubika.
Awesome. Thanks, Robbie. Hello, everyone. I'll try my best to get to these the time that we have remaining and give Kong some good time to actually preview that, because we have shared these in the last BEAD Lunch and Learn webinar. So I'm just going to quickly preview it, and I'm going to share my screen, Robbie, so that I can show it interactively.
Yes.
So I again want to point everybody, as Robbie mentioned, we have the BEAD challenge map. This is still the place to go to look up that information for individual broadband serviceable locations and CAIs. So you can search it. I have just like zoomed into a specific portion of the map so that you get a sense of what exactly it has to say. You can look up the providers. We only list the eligible technologies here. So you're not going to see satellite or unlicensed fixed wireless. That's sort of the difference. We don't want you to be confused with the other ones. It's only these technologies that define eligibility. So you can explore that. We'll share links to this map as well. And here we have the BEAD challenge map, the county summary. This is for the broadband serviceable locations. Basically, two kinds of data available here. On the bottom here, we basically have the total number of BSLs, which is the broadband serviceable location. How many of those are unserved? And we've tried to keep consistent between the colors that show up on the BEAD challenge map and on the dashboard. So unserved, we have them as green because those are eligible for funding. Similarly, for underserved yellow, those would also be eligible for BEAD funding. We have the third category here, which is BSLs with enforceable commitments. So that is any prior state or federal funding that they might have received. These are reflected as served on the BEAD challenge map. So we have these three categories, and all that's remaining are the served broadband serviceable locations. On the right side here, it's essentially what technology are locations covered by. And this is not additive, like this is not going to add up to the total BSLs because one location can have access to multiple technologies. So this just gives you a sense of what percentage of the county is covered by different technologies. And the intention of creating this was if you want to get sense of how many of the locations in your particular area are eligible for BEAD funding, this could be a good start instead of having to look up those individual locations. So now diverting your attention to the drop down here on the top right, where you can select a specific county. I'm going to select Iroquois for now, just as an example. So all of the information now is for Iroquois County in this case, and you'll see all the locations on the map. We also have the legend here if you want to make sense of the different colors, but it's consistent with how they show up down here. So that's a preview of this. We'll share links with you so that you can take a closer look at your specific counties, and please feel free to reach out to us with any specific questions you might have. We have a similar one for CAIs and MDUs as well. So on the right side here, it's all to do with MDUs. On the left, it's all CAIs. So total CAIs, how many of those are eligible? And with MDUs, again, information about unserved, underserved, and the ones with enforceable commitments. On this map here, so again, let's go to a specific county. Let's maybe look at DeKalb for this example. So again, number is going to change to the specific county selected. In this case, just because it's open to challenge and this is a smaller data set, you can also actually click on individual locations on the map to get information on what's the CAI type, the name of the CAI, the address and things. So if you want to use this as a way to like prepare for any challenges, that would be a way to go. Similarly with MDUs, the ones that are already categorized as unserved or underserved, those are already eligible. The ones that are in red are marked as served. So if that's not the case and the role experience pretty much, you can again click on that specific and maybe probably zoom in a little more to see where exactly that is. Click on it and then you get the details of the MDU as well. So again, links to this will be shared. I'm now going to pass it on to Kong. So we have also been working on other thematic dashboards just because hearing feedback that county level information would be super helpful. So in the last monthly meeting, Robbie had shared the various covered populations that are indicated in the state digital equity plan. And we have that information by region in the plan. So our team has been working on putting together that information on a county level. So passing it on to Kong to share more about this dashboard.
Really, sorry, Connor, just to steal your thunder real fast. So just really quick, we are going to go over a little bit. So I'm going to make if anybody does need to leave at 2, you're welcome to, because this will be kind of emailed and the recording. But I really want to get through this information, and I have until 2:15. So let's plan on that, just so everyone is aware. And there'll be opportunities for questions with that too. Okay, take it away, Connor. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Shpika, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kong. I'm with the Life Science Policy Scholar. So this is the dashboard that we've created with Shpika. Essentially, the data inside is complement to what we have in the statewide digital equity plan for the cover population. So what we have here is the table. It's being divided by each county. So essentially, we have foreign-born population on the indicator down here, population with disability, basically the literacy, rate of population, and population of age 5 and plus who speak both English and any other additional language, elderly population who are above 65 years old, and population 18 and over who are veterans. And on this table, if you want to like filter out by each county, for example, Champaign County, which is where I am right now, if you click it, the map will zoom into Champaign County, essentially, filter out all the data in there, especially as well as filtering out the indicators down here, which will change to each indicator. It will also show the details on this little box, showing the poverty level, people who are living under or above poverty level inside each county. So I have shared the links in the chat. You can play around and browse around and give us feedback and comments on whether if we want to add more data that you want to see, or whether if you want to like have just in general comments. Everything is welcome. So thank you, and back to Robbie.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yep.
Kong, would you also like to speak to some of the other thematic dashboards that you and the team are working on, just so that the ready teams have a preview of what's coming in the months?
Yeah, so essentially this is the statewide digital equity plan cover population. We're also working on housing and income, essentially looking at the median household income, different income population grouped by income tiers and things like that. We're also looking at the internet usage or probably needs, determining which county or which area of the Illinois are lacking computer devices, or even having broadband subscriptions and things like that. So we will have several separate dashboards that focus on each topic in each county for the state of Illinois.
Thank you so much for that. And I think these are again just like tools that we want to make available to all of your teams for the work that you're doing. So we welcome any feedback that you may have in terms of, you can add this data point here, or, bring in this so that we can compare two data sets together or something like that. So any kind of feedback as you start to take a closer look at some of these dashboards that we've created, we would certainly welcome any feedback that you have on your end. Thanks. That's all from us, Robbie.
Great. Yeah, so we just wanted to kind of provide that introduction at this point. I mean, these things are live, as you can see. So if you're curious about community anchor institutions in your region, it's all there. I think this could also ultimately play into the regional projects that everyone was going to be working on at the end of the day, kind of telling stories with data and the like. So we just wanted to highlight that it's being used ultimately right now, or will be kind of as part of the BEAD process. But I think this is also going to be a long-term kind of dashboard that will be available for people. These will also obviously be going out as links into the follow-up. Okay, I was going to spend some time going through some common FAQs and things that we got, some of them directly from the sessions that we held in person in the Southeast region and the Southern region. But I think just because of the sake of time, I'm not going to. This presentation will be emailed out, so you can kind of take a look at that, as well as understanding kind of all these different resources that are available with the BEAD program. I'm going to go into kind of just the quick wind down and then kind of just end the recording, but stay on for anybody that might have questions. The best thing to do if you want to play a part in the BEAD program, which at this point is the best thing you can do to increase access to broadband in your respective region, is to mainly just pre-register for the challenge process that will be opening soon and only for 21 days. That will go a long way. If you want to learn more information, there's webinars on Wednesdays. There's one pagers. We're also happy to kind of do one-on-one meetings with you all if you're kind of confused and want to kind of figure out your role in this process. But we just wanted to make sure all of that was available in there. The other final kind of closing announcement I just wanted to say is the Broadband Breakthrough Program is underway, as you know, in a couple key counties. There were a lot of people that attended from Broadband Breakthrough at those in-person events. I'm happy to announce that there is a good 5 that are anticipated for the next one in Boone, Johnson, Lawrence, Massac, and Vermilion. This isn't necessarily public yet, but I just wanted to kind of let those ready teams know that that's happening, as well as some expressed interest in Clark, Iroquois, and Lee County. And so thinking kind of with BEAD and the year ahead, this is a phenomenal opportunity for rural counties to take a part, to take part in the BEAD process and the Broadband Breakthrough Program, to just get that sort of local coordination in place for this really important time. So if you have any questions, you can email me. And if you're thinking about applying on behalf of your county, really contact Bill Coleman. This will also be included, which is just all the kind of ways to contact us. And our next meeting is March 15th. So that's all for now. I'm going to stop the presentation, but I will be around if anybody has any questions about any of the things that you've seen so far. So thank you very much.